Today, we're talking about a military commander who might just be the most brilliant and, strangely, the most underrated in all of history, Khalid ibn al-Walid. This isn't just a guy who won battles. This is a guy who literally redrew the map of the world. And what makes his story so completely mind-bending is this one central question. How does any general fight in over 100 battles against the biggest empires on the planet and never, not a single time, lose? I know, that's not an exaggeration. The number is 0, zilch. It's a record that sounds, well, it sounds impossible. So in this explainer, we're going to break down just how he pulled it off. To really understand the master, we have to go back to the beginning. And here's the wild part. His story doesn't start as a hero of Islam, but as its most dangerous enemy. Yeah, before he became a Muslim, Khalid was the top military man for the Quraysh tribe in Mecca, and his tactical genius was first put on full display in a battle that almost destroyed the very cause he would one day die for. Okay, so check this out. This is his first masterpiece. At the Battle of Uhud, it looked like it was game over for Khalid's side. The Muslims had it in the bag. But then their archers made a huge mistake. They abandoned their high ground. Khalid, who was leading the enemy cavalry, saw this tiny window of opportunity instantly. No hesitation. He just led a lightning-fast charge around the mountain and slammed into the Muslim army from behind. Just like that, he turned a sure defeat into a stunning victory. It perfectly shows how this guy could see and exploit any weakness in a split second. But then, everything changes. A few years later, Khalid converts to Islam. And the Prophet Muhammad knew exactly what a game-changer this was. He hadn't just gotten a new follower, he'd gotten a military force of nature on his side. And his words in that moment, well, they tell you everything you need to know. And it wasn't long before Khalid's new loyalty was thrown right into the fire, in a battle that would earn him the legendary title he'd be known by for the rest of time, the Sword of God. Just take a second and look at these numbers. The Battle of Mu'tah. 3,000 Muslims, up against an estimated 200,000 Byzantine soldiers. This wasn't supposed to be a battle, it was supposed to be a massacre. 3 of the Muslim commanders had already fallen when Khalid stepped up. He knew winning was totally off the table. This was about survival. And what he did next was pure psychological genius. During the night, he had his tiny army completely shuffle their positions. The guys on the left flank swapped at the right, the soldiers in the back moved to the front. So when the sun rose, the Byzantines looked out and thought, wait, are those new banners? Did they get reinforcements? That little moment of confusion was all Khalid needed. He created the illusion of a much larger force, buying just enough time to execute a perfect fighting retreat and save his entire army from being destroyed. When news of this unbelievable escape got back to the Prophet, he gave Khalid the title that would stick with him forever. He wasn't just Khalid ibn al-Walid anymore. He was now Saif Allah, the Sword of God. Or more specifically, Saif Allah al-Maslul. And what that means is the Unsheathed Sword of God. Think about it, a weapon that has already been drawn by God, always ready to fight. Now, armed with this incredible title, Khalid's career moves into its most famous phase, taking on the 2 superpowers of the day, the Persian and Byzantine Empires, sometimes at the same time. And these campaigns weren't just a series of slugfests. Oh no, they were a masterclass in deep strategy, logistical brilliance, and just an uncanny ability to get inside the enemy's head. Just listen to these 2 examples. First, at Wallajah, he pulls off a double envelopment, a super difficult move made famous by Hannibal. He hit his cavalry, baited the Persian army into a trap, and then slammed it shut from both sides, completely wiping them out. Then, and get this, he needed to get his army to Syria fast, so he marched them straight through a waterless desert. How? He literally had the camels drink extra water to act as living canteens for his soldiers. It was something no one thought was possible, and he just showed up behind enemy lines completely out of nowhere. But all of that was just the warm-up act for his masterpiece, the Battle of Yarmouk. The numbers you're looking at here really tell the story. The Muslims were outnumbered almost 7-1 in a battle that was going to decide the fate of the entire Middle East. So how on earth did he win? With absolute tactical genius. First, he unified all the different Muslim armies under his command. Then he reorganized them into smaller, more flexible units. But his secret weapon, his masterstroke, was creating the mobile guard. an elite cavalry unit that he personally led. Think of them like a battlefield SWAT team, racing to plug any gaps or exploit any weakness. Over 6 long days of fighting, he used this mobile guard to systematically break the Byzantine cavalry, peeling them away from their infantry. Once the foot soldiers were exposed and alone, he drove the shattered army towards a series of ravines, sealing their fate and ending Byzantine rule in Syria forever. But Khalid's greatest test wasn't going to come from an enemy army. It was going to come from his own side, a challenge not to his skill, but to his character. At the absolute height of his success, right in the middle of this massive campaign, the new caliph, Umar, dismissed him. He fired him. You have to ask, why would anyone do that? Well, the reason had nothing to do with tactics or loyalty. It was all about faith. Umar was worried that the people were starting to develop a cult of personality around Khalid. They were beginning to think, as long as Khalid is on the field, victory is guaranteed. Umar wanted to make it crystal clear to everyone that victory comes from God and God alone. And Khalid's reaction to this? It was incredible. No rebellion, no complaining, nothing. He just accepted the decision, took his new position as a regular soldier under the new commander, and said he wasn't fighting for his boss. He was fighting for his boss's lord. His loyalty was to his faith, not his rank. But here's the final twist. The man who lived by the sword didn't die by it. On his deathbed, Khalid wept, not out of fear, but out of frustration. His body was a roadmap of scars from every weapon imaginable, yet here he was, dying in bed. His last words are just a heartbreaking cry from a warrior who wanted nothing more than to die a martyr's death on the battlefield. So, let's go back to that first question. How did one man achieve the impossible? It wasn't just one thing, it was the whole package. He was unpredictable, never using the same plan twice. He was a master of psychological warfare. He used speed as a weapon, always showing up where he was least expected. And he led from the front, inspiring incredible courage in his men. But maybe, just maybe, the real key to his undefeated record was his victory over his own ego. He was a conqueror who could accept a demotion, a living legend who was happy to fight as a common soldier. That right there is the true legacy of Saif Allah, the Unsheathed Sword of God. And it makes you wonder, will history ever see his like again?